Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and Amelia, so thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. Good morning, everybody. As Mary Lou said, my name is Amelia Kramer, and I'm pleased to have become acquainted with Mary Lou over the past couple of years on the Supreme Court Committee on Mental Health and the Justice System. Just for those of you who don't know me, a little bit about my background. I'm a person with lived experience. I suffer from co-occurring disorders, been clean and sober and in recovery from mental health disorders for 37 years. I've been in the county attorney's office for almost 20 years. And over the past 10 years, Pima County Attorney Barbara Lawal has delegated to me responsibility for dealing with our specialty court programs and diversion programs. My job title is Chief Deputy, and in that capacity, I am sort of like the Chief Operating Officer. The Chief Deputy County Attorney in each of our 15 counties is a statutorily created position. And so I help the county attorney to oversee criminal prosecution, which of course includes Rule 11 competency determinations, civil legal services, which includes Title 36 civil commitments, and also includes any diversion and specialty court programs. And we are fortunate in Pima County that not only our county attorney, but our courts, as well as our county administration, have been very proactive in terms of criminal justice reform with regards to diversion and specialty court programs. And so Mary Lou has asked me to be here today, and I'm pleased to be joined by Vanessa Helms, who is the new director of our specialty court programs in the county attorney's office. Tomorrow she'll have been on the job for a month, so she'll be helping present a little bit at the end of this presentation. And also I'm joined by MJ Recidivism, who is my counterpart in the Tucson City Attorney's Office, and we've engaged in a number of collaborations together there. Pima County has a problem-solving courts collaborative, which I've worked with the presiding Superior Court judge to facilitate. And we also have a number of federal grant programs and MacArthur Foundation programs that assist in funding some of our diversion and specialty court programs. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that come into the chat at the end if we have time, and if not, feel free to email me at the Pima County Attorney's Office, and I'll be sure to answer any questions that you may have. Let's see if I can get this to forward now. Hang on. Uh-oh. Well, I've been able to share one screen, but I'm going to have to stop sharing this, and I may have to do the presentation a different way here to get it to scare. There we go. So I'm going to cover a number of topics, 5 main topics during the presentation. I'll just quickly go over the statutory authority that the legislature and the governor have given to the courts in Arizona to operate specialty courts, the statutory authority that county attorneys have been given to operate diversion programs, talk a little bit about the hybrid court-monitored prosecutor-sponsored diversion programs that we have in Pima County.
I'm sorry, Amelia. Are you still sharing your screen? Are folks seeing the?
I am trying to share it. Is it not working?
I'm not seeing it now.
All right, let me try again here. Just a second. Let me try it this way. Okay. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll go over the authority for the various specialty courts, diversion programs, hybrid programs that are both diversion and court supervised specialty courts combined. Talk a little bit about what Pima County Attorney's Office provides in terms of both misdemeanor and felony diversion programs. Talk a little bit about behavioral health related diversion and specialty court programs. In our Superior Court, we've got a mental health court, a drug court, and a drug treatment alternative to prison program. We also have a program that is in development now that will go live February 1st, which is really exciting. It's a new pre-indictment diversion program that's going to be court monitored. We have a consolidated justice court, behavioral health court, and veterans court. MJ Recidivism, the principal assistant Tucson City Prosecutor, will be talking to you a little bit about Tucson City Court's mental health court. They also have a consolidated veterans court and homeless court. And then Vanessa Helms will help me to talk about the relatively new Regional Consolidated Misdemeanor Problem Solving Court, which is a court for people with co-occurring disorders. So the authority of courts to operate mental health courts, some of you may be very familiar with, is under ARS 22-601. And this provides that the presiding judge can establish a homeless court, a veterans court, or a mental health court. And then the presiding judge determines what the eligibility criteria will be for referrals, allows other judges in the jurisdiction to refer cases into those specialty courts, and requires that the prosecutor be notified of any case that is referred into those specialty courts. Similarly, there is authority in the statutes of courts to operate drug courts. Again, it's the presiding judge of Superior Court in each county that may establish a drug court program. And then cases that are assigned must be individuals with drug dependency, charged with probation eligible offenses, including preparatory offenses. And again, there's an interesting provision. The defendant may be admitted into the drug court program prior to entering a guilty plea or having a trial. So we have programs that are both post-plea, post-conviction, and also pre-conviction. And then county attorneys, the executive branch, rather than the judicial branch, are given authority to operate diversion programs. So as you probably know, law enforcement officers have authority to make arrests within their discretion, and that's an executive function. They can make arrests anytime they have probable cause to believe that an individual has committed a crime. But once an arrest has been made or a citation issued by a law enforcement officer, under certain circumstances with certain limitations, county attorneys have authority either to prosecute the case if they believe they have sufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, or a county attorney may divert or defer the individual prior to guilty plea or trial, meaning assign some consequences to the individual, and if they complete those consequences, dismiss the charges rather than convicting them or prosecuting them. So there's a combined authority that we in Pima County have used in a number of circumstances between the county attorney on the one hand, diverting or deferring prosecution, and the courts engaging in monitoring either of drug courts or mental health courts, veterans courts, or homeless courts. And so the way that works is the county attorney has the authority to make the decision of diversion, not to go forward with the prosecution, and to have certain consequences. And what we'll do is we'll have pre-conviction court monitoring, similar to what you would have post-conviction on probation. And in fact, some of our courts are both pre-conviction diversion and post-conviction probation monitoring. But we have good relationships between the courts and the county attorney's office that have helped facilitate, create these combined programs. So just quickly going through the diversion programs. These are diversion programs led by the Pima County Attorney's Office. We have 1 pre-charge diversion program and 9 post-charge pre-conviction programs. The eligibility for these are based on the type of offense for which the individual was arrested or would be charged, not their diagnosis, and it's without regard to diagnosis. So an individual may be SMI, or suffer from some mental or behavioral health issue. They may suffer from substance use disorder. They may be developmentally disabled. That is not an issue. They're eligible to participate in the diversion program, and in certain circumstances will be afforded special services to help them succeed with regards to the diversion program. Pima County Attorney's Office has statutory authority to charge fees to require participants in diversion to help pay for the costs of these programs, the administration of the program. Our county attorney in Pima County, Barbara Lawal, has decided that she will never prohibit somebody from participating based on their inability to pay. So frequently, we have individuals who are incapable of paying the full fee. We're able to reduce that fee. We're able to allow someone to provide community service in lieu of the fee, or if they're unable to provide community service, and we've had that on occasion, waive the fee altogether. The one pre-charge diversion program we have is a misdemeanor diversion program known as the Bad Check Program. And the way this works is a merchant who receives a check that's no good. There's insufficient funds in someone's bank account, the person who wrote the check, so it bounces. that merchant can contact the county attorney's office and ask us to go forward through the bad check program. And what we do is we basically send a demand letter telling the individual who wrote the bad check, once we have evidence to demonstrate that that's the case, that they could be arrested and they could be charged and they could be prosecuted and convicted. And if they are, they're going to have to pay restitution and they're going to have a criminal record. Or they could come to us and agree to pay restitution to that merchant to pay the money that they owe for the bounced check and pay a small fee. And if they do that, we won't even charge them. We'll make sure law enforcement doesn't charge them at all. So they won't even have an arrest. And so over the last fiscal year, from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, we processed 204 bad checks and collected over $86,000 in restitution. This program, as you might imagine, is declining in use because fewer and fewer merchants are actually taking checks and more business is being done electronically, which prevents the bouncing of bad checks. But it's a program that over the years has been deemed to be the #1 bad check program in the nation, and it's something we're very proud of because it provides restitution to victims and at the same time helps prevent criminal records for individuals who might otherwise not be able to get their life in order, and many of whom are suffering from poverty more than anything else rather than criminal activity in any other regard. So in addition to the bad check program, the Pima County Attorney's Office has 9 different post-charge felony and misdemeanor diversion programs. Post-charge meaning the person has been arrested, typically by an outside law enforcement agency, Tucson Police, Pima County Sheriff's Department, Marana, Oro Valley, Sahuarita, South Tucson Police, or a federal or state agency, Department of Public Safety, for example. Whoever makes the arrest, if it's a felony case, it comes in for issuing by one of our felony prosecutors. And there's a very small percentage of cases, other than drug possession cases, that the Pima County Attorney diverts every year. I would say, and you can see last year we closed 8 cases, 6 of them successfully. I would say the majority of those are domestic violence cases in which the arrested individual has been the victim in the past, is now the perpetrator, but has been suffering severe domestic violence in the past, typically a female who we do not believe would be appropriate to go into the group counseling sessions with other perpetrators if convicted and put on probation. And so we would typically set up a special felony diversion, put her through special types of counseling, but not prosecute and convict that individual. Then we have our felony drug diversion program. This is a relatively new program. The first week of November will be the 2-year anniversary of this program, which began as a pilot and then has now become a permanent program in the Pima County Attorney's Office. Every individual who is arrested for the first time on felony drug possession charges is eligible for this. And we typically have had, over the past 2 years, close to 200 individuals who have enrolled. You can see we had 194 cases closed last year. And the success rate here is 54%. You all may know more than most people that that's a really high success rate for people suffering from substance use disorder. We found that the way this thing works is a defendant will come into the program post-arrest at the time of their arraignment, which is typically 20 days following their arrest, and they've been indicted, and only about half of these individuals actually appear for their arraignment. So we have about 500 individuals arrested on these charges every year in Pima County. About 250 of them actually show up for their arraignment. And at that point, they're offered either our standard plea agreement to probation or felony drug diversion. And when we started the pilot program, we were hoping to have a 25% success rate, which we thought would be terrific. And first year we had a 42% success rate. And with some meetings and strategic planning and upgrading the way in which we've been providing interventions to help participants succeed, we've actually gotten the rate up to 54%, which we're very proud of. We also have a number of misdemeanor diversion programs. So one is the domestic violence diversion program for misdemeanors. We do find that a number of perpetrators who are arrested for domestic violence charges do suffer from mental and behavioral health disorders. They do receive anger management and other counseling through this program, and we find that that's something that's been very valuable for individuals, both as a way of preventing having a conviction on their record, but also receiving some of the services that they need. We have a reoffender diversion program for second-time arrestees. That's the maximum that we allow in diversion in the Pima County Attorney's Office, twice. We have a standard misdemeanor diversion program for miscellaneous offenses, which could include shoplifting, graffiti, that sort of thing. An alcohol diversion program, typically that's for individuals age 18 to 20 who've been arrested for alcohol possession. Marijuana and paraphernalia program, we have a 90% success rate with this, and it would be 99% if it were just marijuana, but the paraphernalia typically is syringes and that sort of thing, so it's for harder drugs. We do a clinical screening of individuals. A clinician with Community Bridges Incorporated performs a clinical screening. The vast majority of these individuals who possess marijuana screen in as not suffering from substance use disorder, and so they're sent to a class as their consequence. But the few individuals possessing marijuana and the vast majority of those with paraphernalia screen in as suffering from substance use disorder, some of them also with co-occurring disorders. They are referred to treatment, either outpatient, intensive outpatient, or residential treatment as their condition of success in the diversion program. And then they have to pass a urine test at the conclusion of their treatment program in order to be successfely terminated on diversion and to have the charges against them dismissed. Very high success rate with that. And so in Pima County, many years ago, the county attorney asked law enforcement officers not to make felony arrests for marijuana possession, just to make a misdemeanor arrest, because it's a class 6 felony, which can be treated either as a felony or a misdemeanor. All 6 of our local law enforcement agencies agreed. So typically these are misdemeanor arrests or citations, and then almost everybody succeeds on diversion. So we have almost no convictions of marijuana possession in Pima County. We have a University of Arizona student diversion program. It consists of all the types of diversion that I've previously talked to you about. The only difference here is that these are actively enrolled students at the University of Arizona. And so we work with the Dean of Students Office to determine the appropriate consequences. For our other diversion programs, we work with outside vendors. We will typically give the participant a list of vendors, the consequence they need to complete, whether it's an educational class or a series of counseling sessions, that type of thing. And they get to choose which vendor they want to go to based on cost, location, hours, that sort of thing. Some of our vendors have discounts. One of our vendors even will discount down to 0, so people don't even have to pay those fees. But when it's a University of Arizona student, the Dean of Students Office is the one that is the vendor that provides the consequences, the counseling, the education, those sorts of things. So the County Attorney's Office enrolls the participant in diversion. The Dean of Students Office determines the diversion consequences and then provides the County Attorney's Office with either a certificate demonstrating that the student has completed successfully their consequences, or reports back that they have not been successful, and then they may be prosecuted. We have a tobacco retailer diversion program for, this is typically, it's available to almost all tobacco retailers who are selling to minors underage. Most of our retailers have commitment to educate their staff about the fact that they should not sell to minors, to get identification and that sort of thing. But every once in a while, there'll be an employee at one of these tobacco retailers who doesn't follow the rules and sells to minors. And we could prosecute the owner of the store or the manager of the store, but rather than do that, what we typically will do is send that individual employee or manager through our diversion program to try to educate them so they won't do it again. And we've been fairly successful with that. This past year, we had a 100% success rate. And then finally, our last misdemeanor diversion program is a combined program. It's a behavioral health court diversion program. And I'll get to that when I talk about our problem-solving courts, but it's a combined program. I mentioned before the felony drug diversion program and how many participants, 194 last year, 54% success rate. So this is just a little visual about how it works. The individual's arrested, they go to jail. They will be typically released from custody following their initial appearance, asked to show up at their arraignment. At that point, we give them the opportunity to enroll in the felony diversion program. If they decline that, they will be prosecuted. If they do enroll, they go over to the public defender's office. They meet with their defense attorney who goes over a contract with them. They sign the contract. They have to accept responsibility saying, yes, I possessed the drugs. We don't want to coerce somebody into this who didn't actually commit the crime. And they have to agree to abide by the conditions. One of the conditions is that they will receive a screening and assessment, and then they'll be assigned to one of 4 levels of services, either a class or a level of treatment. And so they sign that contract. They then meet with a diversion specialist from the county attorney's office, somebody we employ who's going to be tracking their participation, making sure they remain engaged, if they show up for their treatment or their classes. If they're not engaged, we will reach back out to their defense attorney to try to assist getting them engaged. And the provider also tries to get them re-engaged. We'll try up to 2 or 3 times before we'll fail someone. So we give them 6 months to complete whatever their consequence is. Typically, they could get it completed within a month's time. So it's really up to them whether they're going to get it done right away or they're struggling a little bit. We partner with Community Bridges Incorporated, which is the agency that does the screening and assessments and the referrals. But not all the services are provided by Community Bridges. They're provided by a number of access funded providers in Pima County. Our Regional Behavioral Health Authority can coordinate that, or private insurance. And so, you know, classes, outpatient treatment, intensive outpatient with wraparound services, or residential treatment with wraparound services. And the kinds of wraparound services we provide are things that are not paid for by access. So things like transportation, food, dental care, eye care, those sorts of things, even housing. So we want to help people succeed, and we try to give them the services that they need. We have a few individuals whose co-occurring disorders, mental health disorders, arise, who are in intensive outpatient or residential treatment. And we also try to facilitate making sure they receive access-funded services for any mental or behavioral health disorders. We've had people suffering from developmental disability who've gone through this, and from other issues that make it a challenge. We've had someone who's deaf. We've had people with language barriers, all that sort of thing. So that's included in the wraparound services, is any kind of services that the participant may need to help them succeed in the program. We had, besides the bad check program last year, we had a total of 937 participants in our diversion programs. Of those, 721 were new referrals that came in during the year. We successfully completed 631 of them. 173 were unsuccessful. We closed a total of 804 cases. At the end of the year, we had 216 pending, and our combined success rate was 78%. We had a brief hiatus in enrollments when the pandemic first hit in mid-March, but by the end of April, we were up and running, enrolling people again. We've been doing it telephonically and by video. So we're continuing to operate those programs. And rather than in-person meetings with the diversion specialist, we do it by phone or by video. All of our agencies that are vendors of the services are operating, and so we've had a good means of continuing these programs. The numbers are down a little bit, partly because arrests are down. During March, April, and the early part of May, police and sheriff's deputies were making fewer arrests. And in fact, our county attorney had asked that they make no arrests for simple possession of drugs, so that we could reduce the jail population to eliminate COVID, and our law enforcement agencies cooperated in that regard. So that reduced the number of referrals to diversion. But those arrests are not back up, but we still have people being arrested now on multiple charges. So they may be arrested on a misdemeanor and also have drug possession. And so some of those are now coming back into our diversion program at this point. So shifting from county attorney operated diversion into the specialty courts, in Pima County and the city of Tucson, we have a number of mental health and behavioral health related specialty court programs. So in our Superior Court, which handles felonies, we have a felony mental health court, we have a felony drug court, and we have a drug treatment alternative to prison program, which is actually a collaboration between the county attorney and the court, operated by the county attorney's office. I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a moment. The mental health court is a post post-conviction probation alternative. So any felony defendant who is sentenced to probation, who suffers from a mental health disorder, may be eligible to enter into the felony mental health court. And it's a typical problem-solving court where the judge holds review hearings. Probation assigns the convicted felon as a condition of their probation to receive services, mental health services. And those review hearings in court are to determine whether the participant is abiding by those conditions of their probation. And the reason for the services is to help them successfully complete probation so they don't have their revocation of probation and get sent to prison. And they're able to successfully complete probation and get off of it. Frequently, an added incentive is that if they are succeeding over a period of time, the court can shorten the term of probation and allow them to complete early. Drug court operates very much the same way in Pima County. It is a post-conviction probation option, again, administered by the court and the probation department. Works just like mental health court. Many of the participants in these two courts have co-occurring disorders, but typically they'll be assigned to the one with the predominant disorder. And with the drug treatment alternative to prison program, we have found that 90+% of the participants have co-occurring mental health disorders in addition to substance use disorder. A condition of them participating in the drug treatment alternative to prison program is that they must be both high risk and high need, meaning they have repetitive felony convictions and they suffer from substance use disorder to the point where they need either intensive outpatient or residential treatment. Almost every 1 to a person suffers from PTSD, a lot of bipolar disorder, we have schizophrenia and other disorders that are co-occurring, but it is a drug court format. And then we have something really exciting under development now. I think this will be one of the first in the country. Certainly, I think it will be the first in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, which is a new steps court pre-indictment felony drug diversion program. This will be available to individuals. It'll run similarly to the felony drug diversion program that I talked about previously. But the significant difference here with the steps court is that it will be pre-indictment. So the individual will be arrested and they'll be sent to a court hearing before the grand jury is convened and indicts them and they have an arraignment. They'll just get an interim court hearing where they'll have a chance to enroll. And this is going to be a combined court monitored prosecutor run diversion program where they'll be screened and assessed. If they're not addicted, they'll be sent to a class. If they are addicted, again, they'll be sent to the appropriate level of treatment intervention. When they successfully complete, the county attorney has agreed we will never file charges. So they will never have a felony charge, much less a conviction on their record. So we're really excited about that. We anticipate that we will capture some of that 500 individuals who don't show up for their arraignment by shortening the time frame and by providing some pre-court services. So when they're released from the jail, Hope Incorporated, we're really excited. The Superior Court is partnering with Hope. They applied for a federal grant to provide transportation to Hope and housing for those who need housing. They'll go to their court hearing a week later to 9 days later. Again, Hope will provide transportation. We'll hopefully get them enrolled in the diversion program right there at the courthouse. And we hope to increase the participation up to the full 500 participants who are eligible, as well as to help the success by having that intervention come much earlier in time. That's slated to go live on February 1st. Then in our, we're really proud of a program that is one of the first in the country, which is a consolidated misdemeanor problem-solving court. Well, let me first just say, we've got, in our justice courts, we have misdemeanor behavioral health court and a veterans court. In Pima County, all but 2 of our justice courts are consolidated. In other words, all the justices of the peace operate out of one courthouse, and cases are assigned between precincts. In Ajo, which is a very remote town, and in Green Valley, we have separate justice courts for those rural and remote jurisdictions, but everything in the greater Tucson area within Pima County goes into this consolidated justice court, all the misdemeanor cases. And the misdemeanor behavioral health court is a combined diversion post-conviction court where the prosecutor's office has consented to the court enrolling individuals into court-monitored diversion where they receive mental health services typically paid for through access. And if they comply with those, then the county attorney's office, we will dismiss the charges and they will not have a conviction. If they fail, oftentimes they'll be sentenced to probation. And one of the conditions of probation will be to come to review hearings and to continue to get that sort of treatment through the provider to help the individual to succeed on probation. And the Veterans Court and Justice Court operates very much the same way. And this is where I want to turn it over to MJ Ricidi, who is the Principal Assistant Tucson City Prosecutor, to talk to you a little bit about Tucson City Court's Misdemeanor Mental Health Court. And they also have a consolidated municipal veterans court that serves the 5 municipalities in Pima County and a homeless court. So MJ, I want to let you take it from here.
Thank you, Amelia. Hi, everybody. My name is MJ Ricidi. I'm a Principal Assistant City Prosecuting Attorney, and I've been so since 1984, so I've been around a bit. I want to talk to you a little bit about our mental health diversion programs. The programs, and I noticed that Dan Haley is going to be one of the panelists, but the program was started back in 1997 and has been part of the Tucson City Court scheme for since that time. Currently, Judge Susan Shetter is the person that runs the program. She is the judge assigned to that case. We get people who come into the court, they're canvassed, and then they come into the court. You do not have to have a seriously mental ill diagnosis, but you do need to have a mental health component. The people are arrested either by long form complaint or citation by a Tucson police officer. They get arraigned. There's a determination whether or not they're going to have one of the qualifying disorders or mental health challenges to get themselves into mental health diversion program. And so they're screened. They get into the program. After that, one thing that is not available by our mental health diversion program is for driving under the influence charges. They can be monitored by the mental health court judge in serving in unsupervised probation, but that is the one charge that is not part of the diversion program. Interestingly enough, there's different statutes that apply to city prosecutors as opposed to county attorneys. So our entitlement to do prosecution diversion programs is under Arizona Revised Statutes 9-500.22, prosecution diversion programs. That allows a chief prosecutor to, in their sole discretion, determine whether or not they can divert prosecution of an offender which occurs either before a guilty plea or after a guilty plea. So we have two kinds of diversion pleas in the city of Tucson with the Tucson City Prosecutor's Office. In non-mental health cases, we operate under a post-plea program where the person pleads guilty, but the court holds off the sentencing of the person to see if they successfully complete the requirements of that particular program. So we have monitored diversion for domestic violence cases and other cases, as well as regular diversion for shoplifting, criminal trespass, crimes of that nature. Going back to the mental health component, once that person is determined to have the to have the mental health diagnosis, and it does, as I said, it does not have to be seriously mentally ill. It can be some kind of mental health challenge. They are screened and then sent into mental health court, which is run, as I said, by Judge Susan Shetter. And what she does is using motivational interviewing techniques when she meets with any of the participants. Either the participants are, if there's a possibility of jail for the initial charge, be it there could be some type of domestic violence charges, and usually those are family related as opposed to intimate partner related. If there is the possibility of jail, then an attorney is appointed or a private attorney enters a notice of appearance for that particular person. Usually the people that are representing the folks that are participating in our mental health diversion programs are the Office of the City Public Defender. Ms. Mary Trejo is the chief city public defender. She has 5 to 6 of her actual attorneys, and that's almost a third of her workload, or I'm sorry, of the cases that her attorneys represent are actually assigned to our mental health program. The diversion piece of it is where the person signs an agreement with the prosecutor as well as with the providers. And we have currently 5 providers, and Dan can tell us a little bit more if Hope is still working with Tucson City Court, but I think he's branched into more of the other programs that Amelia just spoke to you about. Anyhow, our providers that we currently work with are COPE, Kodak, La Frontera, Marana Healthcare, and Community Health Associates. There's also a component out at the jail. There's a mental health nurse out at the jail who can also refer cases to our mental health diversion program. Generally, the person, after they do a commitment to participate in the program, there's signing, we've determined that they're eligible, they will agree to do some type of counseling as well as some type of interviewing with for various aspects of their challenge, as well as the folks that are assigned to that court or that are trying to successfully complete their mental health diversion program. They will be agreeing to take their prescriptions as prescribed. While Judge Shetter does not force somebody to take their prescriptions, it is a condition that they do. If they are prescribed, then they need to take their medication to get through their programs. Generally, the mental health diversion program lasts anywhere from 120 days. Those are for some of the lesser crimes such as shoplifting, criminal trespass, things like that, up to 12 months, some of their domestic violence related charges. Where they will do, if it's a domestic violence piece, it's going to be 24 to 26 sessions completed, as well as meeting monthly with Judge Shetter. She schedules all of these folks between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and it's quite full. Even during COVID times, they've still been in contact with Judge Shetter, either by telephone or their attorneys through email, and they also are using Zoom now, so that's been excellent. The main thing I want to tell you about this program is that the dedication that these folks, and they're all people that are charged with misdemeanors because it's a city program, and we can only prosecute misdemeanors, or as Amelia mentioned, waive down felony drug cases or other felony waivers, 6 to the class 1 misdemeanors. That the main thing that I want to really describe to you is the success and just the joy of having some of these folks complete that program. They work very hard. So if they're attending, let's say an anonymous Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous meetings, they bring in their small piece of paper crumpled up signed with signatures. And it is just heartwarming how many times they might have folded it or whatever, but that is their piece. And they are so aware of how many classes or how many sessions that they have attended towards completion. They are goal-oriented. And as with any type of mental illness challenge, somebody's going to, or drug related, and a lot of these folks have co-occurring disorders. A lot of them, the challenge that they have is to, sometimes they're going to drop off the wagon, so to speak, but we get them back on. We continue the date at which we have scheduled for their graduation. And once you see that person graduate, and Judge Shetter has every third Friday or second Friday of the month, depending on scheduling, when these folks get to graduate. Pre-COVID times, they even got treats, some kind of a cookie or a cupcake or whatever, but they also got their certificate of dismissing all of these charges. And some of these folks have 10 to 15 charges, criminal trespass, parks cases, some of the homeless folks that have mental illnesses. And to see them graduate, I cannot describe the joy that one feels. And we've worked really hard with Amelia and her folks, and Vanessa will tell you a little bit more about our Compass Court program, over which we're very excited. I have a lot more details. Mary Lou's going to send you the attachment that described it a bit, but she'll also send you my contact information so I can tell you any more that you might like to hear about our program. I do want to say one other thing. Currently, one of our prosecutors has 2,675 cases that are assigned to him, and Judge Shetter, since January 1 of 2020, has processed 14,732 cases. So the numbers are big, but we try to give them individual attention. The providers that we work with are actually in the courtroom or else on the telephone when meeting with. So having the providers, a representative in the courtroom, is really helpful. The ability to dialogue and to keep somebody on track is very important. So thank you.
Thanks, MJ. And yeah, we will be talking a little bit later about a regional consolidated misdemeanor problem-solving court that was commenced in Pima County as a collaboration between the county and the city a new regional court established by the presiding Superior Court judge in March of 2018. And it's been a resounding success so far. We just got through the pilot phase, but we'll hear about that a little bit later. I want to talk about the post-conviction specialty court programs. Felony mental health court in Pima County is again a post-conviction court that's available to probationers by the adult probation department. The participant does have to have an SMI diagnosis per court programming. Their services will be paid for either by private insurance or access or by the Veterans Administration, depending on how they're able to obtain insurance. The Pima County Attorney's Office has some federal grant funding for problem-solving courts in general that we're able to afford to the probation department to purchase wraparound services for participants in mental health court. That's not used frequently. Most of the services that are needed are access funded, but every once in a while we will have them reach out to us for something that's needed. Similarly, the felony drug court, this is a Superior Court run program. Again, post-conviction probation sentenced individuals are eligible as determined by adult probation that they suffer from a substance use disorder and that services would facilitate their success on probation. Similarly, the services are predominantly paid for by access, private insurance, or the Veterans Administration. And again, the county attorney's federal grants are able to pay for some wraparound recovery support services. And then the county attorney's office runs a drug treatment alternative to prison program with cooperation from the Superior Court. Contrary to these other two felony specialty courts, the Dtap program is one in which eligibility is determined prior to conviction. So these are individuals who would typically, because of the charges that they have, either third or fourth or fifth time drug possession with previous convictions, or theft or other property crime charges, they would be sentenced to prison if convicted, even under the county attorney's standard plea. But if it's determined that they have both high risk to reoffend as well as high need for treatment for substance use disorder, then they are eligible to be enrolled in the Dtap program. We check their priors to make sure they don't have serious violent or sexual offenses so that they're not a threat to public safety in the community. And then a plea is offered that would be the Dtap program. So the participant knows when they enter into the plea that they will be in this court monitored program of probation. And it's can go as much as 3 years. Those who are successfully participating can typically graduate anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. Prior to offering this plea, the county attorney's office does consult with a clinician who performs a evidence-based screening and assessment on the participant to verify that they do suffer from substance use disorder and to identify whether they suffer from any co-occurring mental health disorder that would also need to be treated. Every once in a blue moon, we run into a prospective participant who is so severely mentally ill that they would not be able to successfully engage in substance use treatment. And unfortunately, we are not able to accept them. But so long as they are able to participate in substance use treatment on medication for mental illness and with counseling, then they are able to participate. And again, this is paid for by private insurance access or Veterans Administration benefits for the treatment, as well as grant funding. Sometimes we have participants who have previously been kicked out of some of our treatment providers. And so we're able to pay for a treatment provider that may not be access funded, or sometimes they get kicked out during the course of the program and the judge and the prosecutor decide we don't want to revoke their probation and send them to prison. We want to give them another chance, but they've got to go into a treatment provider that is not access funded. In those circumstances, we do have federal grant money and state grant money that we can use to pay for treatment. And these participants all receive tremendous wraparound recovery support services, job training and development, transportation, food, housing, you name it. We're very proud of the fact that we have a 100% success rate in placing these folks in employment. And these are people with multiple felony convictions. So if I can, I'm going to show you just a brief video, 3 minutes, of some of our folks who've participated in Dtap. See if I can get it to run. Here we go.
Being in the Dtap program has affected me tremendously.
A standard day for me before Dtap was getting high, going to work, stealing from work so I could get dope for after work, fighting, abuse, the drug addiction. I mean, it was just, the addiction was so overwhelming that, I mean, I didn't know where to go.
You better believe there was nobody out there more sick and tired of being sick and tired than me. Like I said, I've been to prison 5 times. If it wasn't for this program, I'd be dead or back in prison probably for the rest of my life.
I have changed so much. It's like really my family don't even believe that I've changed that much. You know, my friends, they don't believe like, you know, you've changed. They look at me, you've changed. And I'm like, well, yeah, you know, I had to, you know, because this is my life, you know. And in the Dtap program has helped me a lot because before I didn't have any, I felt like I didn't have any options. So now being in the Dtap program, I have, you know, people that are supportive of me and I have options and, you know, they've just helped me a whole lot being in Dtap.
Getting into Dtap and going through the residential treatment program was just amazing. I mean,
I was really willing and anxious to go and to be there and to see what it would do for me. Because other than that, I would just go to prison and get out and, you know, continue on doing the same thing I did before.
residential treatment for me was a great thing. You can go to transitional housing, which I did. I did 8 months in transitional, which made me self-sufficient today to live on my own and pay my own rent and all my other bills.
So going to residential treatment,
I discovered things about myself and I learned how to cope with everyday problems and my addiction.
made me accountable for my actions and the person that I want to be.
Just being away from the environment that I was in was huge. And having the everybody there, all the counselors and all the, they gave me all the tools to be where I am now. And, without that, I think, you can stop doing what you're doing, but without having the, everybody, the correct people in line and help you. And I don't think you would succeed, without those tools. And, the treatment center gave me those tools, and I learned, what I need to do to cope with things and to deal with them and to, just, get on with my life.
So with Dtap, here's some places you can get more information, but we've saved Pima County more than $1 million a year in prison costs. That's a net savings after the cost of the program. And we have had between a 67 to 70% success rate, which is just phenomenal. And a lot of it is the wraparound services. We have not only probation officers assigned to participants, but also surveillance officers. So we have supervision 24/7, 7 days a week. In addition to that, they have case management, peer support, and then all the other services that I mentioned. So it's an expensive program, but interestingly, we have determined that per participant, there's a savings of more than $17,000 per participant who goes through the program, and that includes those who fail and then end up going to prison. And it's about a $30,000 savings per participant for those who succeed. So we've used that as a model for some of our other programs. And again, almost every single one of the individuals in Dtap suffers not only from substance use disorder, but from co-occurring disorders that are also provided treatment through the program. So as far as felonies are concerned, here's a kind of a chart that shows you a little bit about what we have done and what we're building with the new STEPS program. So just to walk you through it real briefly, here's the individual, gets arrested, taken to jail by the law enforcement officer. They will end up going to an initial appearance where their conditions of release are established, whether they have to pay bail or not, and whether they have other conditions while they're on release. We're about to, starting February 1st, have a calendar within 7 to 9 days. So normally it's 20 days out when we have the next hearing, which would be the arraignment post-indictment. But we're going to move that up for anybody arrested on drug possession charges to 7 to 9 days, depending on whether they were arrested on the weekend. They'll go to what's going to be called a SMART court, initial court review hearing, where if they're eligible, they'll be offered this STEPS court pre-indictment diversion program, immediately enrolled in diversion, sent to a class or treatment, something that would take 1 month to complete, they'll get 3 months to complete it, and then they'll never be indicted, never charged. Or if they're not eligible for that, there will be, you know, a grand jury indictment, and then they will have the normal arraignment, at which point they may be eligible for the Pima County Attorney's Office Felony Drug Diversion Program that I talked about. If not, they would get a plea offer that would allow them to either get standard probation, the standard drug court, or the Dtap program that you just heard about if they're a repetitive offender. And of course, a few of them will choose to go to trial. And afterwards, they will be, if convicted, either eligible for standard probation or drug court, or they will go to prison. Dtap's not eligible post-trial. It's got to be a plea option. As far as other specialty courts, we have in Pima County Consolidated Justice Courts, as I mentioned before, the Misdemeanor Veterans Court, and Tucson City Court also has a Veterans Court that is consolidated for all of our 5 municipalities that deals with both substance use disorder and mental health disorders of other types. And treatment is typically provided through the VA. Because of the need for funding for services in the Pima County Veterans Court, individuals have to be eligible for VA benefits. Tucson City Court has obtained grant funding, which is wonderful. So they are sometimes able to serve individuals who were less than honorably discharged, who are not eligible for VA benefits, but who did serve in the military. And you've heard about our misdemeanor Pima County Behavioral Health Court, and MJ did a great job talking to you about Tucson City Court's mental health court. There's MJ there, Judge Shetter, who you heard about. So those are both hybrid specialty courts that have both a diversion option that's court monitor as well as a post-conviction option. This is our team that went to the National Association of Drug Court Professionals annual conference when we were working to put together the Consolidated Misdemeanor Problem Solving Court. And this is a regional court that is both all 5 municipalities with the city of Tucson leading, as well as Pima County Justice Court. It's a combined. Our presiding Superior Court Judge Kyle Bryson had to establish this court with an administrative order. It is a regional court. We use our Justice Court building. Judge Shetter, who's a city court judge, is our primary judge, but we do have a backup justice of the peace. We have both a city prosecutor and a county prosecutor. MJ is the lead prosecutor for Compass Court, and she's done an amazing job. And we also have Mike Colmanero from the Pima County Attorney's Office. And then we have a city court public defender, Beth Brunner, who's our lead public defender. And we also have county public defender assigned. So we have 2 judges, 2 prosecutors, 2 defense attorneys. We have a number of providers that work with us. We have a case manager employed by Community Bridges, a peer support specialist employed by Community Bridges. This is for people who suffer from co-occurring substance use disorder and mental health disorder, who have multiple court contacts, many of them in multiple courts. So they may have misdemeanor cases pending both in Tucson City Court and Pima County Justice Court, maybe South Tucson City Court, maybe Marana Town Court. They've had a lot of law enforcement contacts. They have a lot of cases pending. What happens is the referring court suspends the case in their court and refers it to Compass Court. They don't close it out and transfer the case. So it's in suspended animation in the originating court. And most of these people have multiple cases in each originating court. They come into Compass Court. It's a diversion program. And if they succeed, then the Compass Court judge informs the referring court that they recommend that the cases be dismissed from the referring court. So these folks have to be both high risk, meaning they're likely to reoffend, and high need, meaning they probably need potentially hospitalization for mental illness, or residential treatment, or at least intensive outpatient treatment for substance use disorder. Almost all these folks are homeless, unemployed. These are really people who are suffering very much, both as defendants and as victims in multiple cases. It's a 5-phase program, takes 12 months to complete. It's following the National Association of Drug Court Professionals drug court best practice standards. And we've had consultants from the National SAMHSA Substance Abuse Health Services Administration help us put together the program manual. And I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa now to just tell you a little bit more about what it's like for her attending the staffings and the hearings, and to tell you a little bit about some of our initial results.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to put my, start my video 1 second. There we go. Well, hello. Thank you, Amelia. Yes, so as Amelia mentioned, I've really been in this position for about a month now, and was able, fortunately, to attend a number of the Compass Court hearings telephonically, which is how they've been really over the past couple of months. There was a small hiatus, again, when COVID hit, like many of us experienced, when everyone sort of was gathering their thoughts about how to proceed. And then fairly quickly, the Compass Court was able to proceed with telephonic hearings. Our case manager, who was assigned to Compass Court at an organization called Community Bridges, was able to help the participants navigate receiving services in a brand new way as well, because many of the providers were closed to in-person for a while. Some have reopened up and others have not. And so helping this particular population specifically navigate those the dynamics and nuances of those services in COVID times was really challenging. But the Compass Court has been able to proceed and is really, it got started really in the spring of 2019 and was ramping up. And then of course, before it was sort of fully operational or fully implemented, COVID hit. But we're really back at it, which is quite a feat in navigating all of this to be almost fully implemented. We have currently 21 active participants. Our maximum at any given time is 50 participants. Again, this is based on best practice standards for a caseload for one case manager to be able to navigate with this particular population who is high risk and high need. And so we've been, as mentioned, just really, continuing to work through and provide the best possible services to the participants as possible. The screen that's up here is something that our law enforcement liaison, who's assigned to Compass Court, who helps to screen individuals to ensure that they don't have any law enforcement contacts or criminal justice cases that might disqualify them for participation in the Compass Court. Tracked essentially law enforcement contacts for the calendar year prior to them entering into Compass Court, and then law enforcement contacts after entering into Compass Court. And what you see here is the reduction in those contacts. It was broken down into the number of arrests that one person experienced, the number of times they were listed as a suspect, the number of times listed as a witness, and the number of times listed as a victim. Because we know that the law enforcement contacts aren't always because they have done something wrong. It might be because of the people who they are around and they had contact as a witness, or they were a victim of crime themselves, which is also quite common. And you can see the percentage of reduction is significant. So in total, there were 144 law enforcement contacts that previous year before entering into Compass Court. And then after the intervention, only 58, which is a 60% reduction. And the percent reduction for the times in which these participants were arrested was a 76% reduction. So it's really significant. And an example of one of the individuals that was in our Compass Court, he had 41 contacts in the year prior to him starting with Compass Court. And in the year after he engaged, he only had 19 contacts. So this court really is making a difference in how participants are engaging in their lives, really, the support that they just never were able to receive before they have access to now, those wraparound services that are really crucial. And so this is, again, something that we're hoping to continue to track to be able to really identify how Compass Court is affecting the lives of these individuals.
Thank you, Vanessa, and appreciate everybody's patience. So up here is some contact information about how you can reach me or Vanessa if you have any more questions about any of the specialty courts or diversion programs that we've talked about here, or something we haven't talked about that you'd like to know more about that we may be able to provide information for you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mary Lou.
Thank you, and I appreciate so much learning
everything that you've shared, and I'm sure it'll help tremendously as community members and professionals navigate through the justice system there in your region. So I'm going to go through a couple of the questions that we have in the chat. We've got about 7 minutes, so I'm going to try to go through them as quickly as I can. The first question was, do any of the diversion programs extend to people with brain injuries?
Yes, so the Pima County Attorney's Office diversion programs are, the misdemeanor programs are all eligible for anybody without regard to developmental disability, traumatic brain injury, or any other type of brain injury. As long as they are competent to participate, then they are eligible. And that would also include the court collaborated diversion programs as well.
Wonderful. All right, and we're on to the next question. When discussing success rate, how are you defining that? Is it successfully completing the program or successfully preventing recidivism, which is usually defined as a 3-year period?
So in all of these, it's been successfully completing the program. With respect to the Dtap, the Drug Treatment Alternative to Prison program that I talked about for repetitive felons or those who would otherwise be going to prison, on the Pima County Attorney's Office website, if you Google Pima County Attorney's Office Dtap, you'll come to a page where there are 3 different cost-benefit studies. And with regards to that program, we do have a recidivism study. And what we've shown is that recidivism is more than cut in half for participants in the Dtap program. We have not done tracking with regards to these other diversion programs. The County Attorney's Office does run a juvenile restorative justice diversion program called Community Justice Boards, where we do have recidivism tracking there. And so those data are available as well.
Thank you, Amelia. And I do encourage people to look over the documents that you had sent to us prior. There was a lot of information included there that we had sent. Next question. Is there an option for health plan court coordinators to obtain the dockets for Pima County mental health courts? This question is being asked by one of the court coordinators from United Healthcare.
Yeah, all these court hearings are public, first of all, so anybody can attend. And there are liaisons requested from all the providers, both for the Justice Court, Behavioral Health Court, as well as the Superior Court, Mental Health Court. MJ could probably speak to Tucson City Court, but I've attended and I've seen healthcare providers in the courtroom there.
That's right. They're invited to participate, and usually we have 5 of the providers that participate, and we try to schedule their clients at a certain hour. So let's say it's somebody from COPE having all of the 10 or 12 people that would be assigned to COPE, so then that we're not taking up all of their time that they have to sit through 2 4-hour sessions. But yes, they're all, and it's all, record is accessible.
Wonderful. Thank you. And okay, next question we have, is there a functional difference between Dtap and the felony drug court, or is the difference just when eligibility is determined and by which office?
Both. So there is a functional difference in that, first of all, there are no surveillance officers in drug court, so the probation officers are available only 8 to 5 Monday through Friday in drug court. There are fewer wraparound recovery support services in the drug court than there are in Dtap. There's not a specifically assigned jobs developer for drug court, while there is for Dtap, but otherwise they function very much in the same fashion, and both courts do their best to follow drug court best practice standards. Dtap actually has evaluators and audits itself on an annual basis to monitor adherence to evidence-based best practices, which the drug court does not do. So there are some differences, for example, in how long the judge might spend with each individual participant, and some of the things that are in those best practice standards, there's a slight deviation there.
Perfect. And you have a comment, great presentation with so much info in a short time. So, and I agree with that. Next question, I think it's the last one here. What tools are you using to determine high risk and high need?
Okay, so we have the OST and the ASAM are the 2 primary tools that we're using, but there are some other ones that we're using as well. And Vanessa, I don't know if you know what the others are at this point or not.
One of the ones that we are looking to actually start utilizing in the Compass Court is actually called a Compass assessment. And it has not only that assessment to determine criminogenic needs, but it also includes a number of other assessments that I don't have the names of in front of me, but there's many out there, and we just look for the one, of course, ones that are evidence-based, best practices, and recommended by the National Drug Court Association associations. So those are some of the ones that we're looking at.
Perfect. And one final question. And I think we had submitted this earlier, and it's probably going to take a while to explain, but to put it in a nutshell, why is there no felony diversion for mentally ill defendants?
So mental illness is not a crime. So the diversion programs that exist are based on crime type, and then services are provided to diversion participants. Like I said, many people who suffer from mental illness do get caught with drug possession, and so they're eligible for the felony drug diversion program. They'll also be eligible for the new Steps court diversion program. And felony diversion, the individuals who are eligible for that have included people suffering from mental illness. I talked about an example of a female who had suffered from domestic violence who now was a perpetrator, for example. Until 2014, when we had the Affordable Care Act implemented, there was no funding source for some of these services that we're talking about. Dtap was started in 2011 with federal grant money, and the drug court was funded that way. We've used some federal money for mental health court, and some of the programming has evolved since then, but Pima County Attorney Barbara Lawal was only able to help facilitate the initiation of certain programs based on funding. We got an appropriation from the state in 2017 for felony diversion, and it may be something that the new incoming county attorney will be able to do, which is to expand diversion to more crime types. But typically that is how diversion works. It's by crime type, and then the participant would receive whatever services they need to successfully complete their diversion. Which may include mental health services. So I do hope that there will be an expansion of felony diversion to help individuals who otherwise, do not pose a public safety risk to the community, to be able to have some pre-conviction services to help avoid a felony conviction in some other kinds of cases. But that'll be, I think, up to the incoming county attorney to do. We've been focusing on putting together a lot of these other programs since 2014 when the Affordable Care Act came in. And I know Barbara Lawal had two other things she wanted to do, one of which was augmented mental health court and diversion programs, and another one is a DUI court, which we don't have. And her term is coming to an end. She's retiring. I'm retiring with her. So that'll be up to our new county attorney to see if she's able to put some of those together.
Well, thank you, Amelia. And that was a great answer, and help me understand better about crime type. And I just want to, again, congratulate you, Amelia, and your team there on many years of successful work and advocating for better outcomes for people with mental illness that are justice involved. I want to thank MJ and Vanessa as well for joining me here today. And again, we thank you for keeping your information accessible and your availability to the community. There might have been one or two questions that we'll follow up on later, but I think you got to most of them. And again, just thank you. And we so appreciate the work of the Pima County Attorney's Office and the leadership that you've provided in this state.
Thank you, and thanks for having us. You mind if we stay on to watch the other presentations?
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, so we'll just have you, well, it looks like you already did stop sharing your screen, didn't you? So we'll be able to turn it over now. Okay. Thank you, Amelia, and thanks to all. All right, so I'm going to introduce Richard Sandoval, and I don't know when Dan Haley, CEO of Hope Incorporated, when he'll want to jump in, but Richard, you are our plan presenter, so we're ready for you. We I think Andrew's going to be placing that survey in the chat box now again, so that in case any of you missed that the first time, you can make sure you see that. He'll get that in there now. And we thank you, Richard, for being here, and welcome you to the coalition. We're anxious to learn about peer-operated services.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Mary. I do want to give it back to Amelia, MJ, and Vanessa for their amazing presentation. And, you know, it's so great to see everything that's going on in Pima County and all these specialty diversion programs, you know, and to go into that, you know, being with Hope Incorporated and being a peer myself, you know, I've been in recovery for 8 years from serious mental illness and substance abuse from drugs and alcoholism. I was blessed to do all of my programming through the VA. I'm a combat vet. And, you know, it was really a blessing. I never knew about any of the community programs that Pima County or, like, you know, Tucson even had to offer. So I know those services would have been available to me if I didn't have the VA. To get started with how I started with Hope, actually I started with Hope Incorporated 7 years ago doing community service in the kitchen, and I had lots of hours to do. I was going through the Veterans Treatment Court program with Judge Pollard at that time, and they had the peer mentorship program here. So once I completed my treatment with the RMVTC program, Veterans Court, and my community service hours, I was blessed to have Hope hire me and teach me about what peer support is and what it is to provide services and support to individuals in the community. So those who don't know what HOPE stands for, it's helping ourselves pursue enrichment, and HOPE has definitely done that for me the past 7 years. I am a program manager for a secondary crisis response team and a program manager for our jail liaison team. So is everybody good with seeing my screen? I'll take that as a yes.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's dive right into what peer services are all about. And I will also be able to identify our programming, our community programming, what HOPE is about, but also to really identify what's the difference between having agencies that provide amazing peer support compared to a peer and family run organization. And that's exactly what HOPE is. Okay. So who are peer workers? So peer support workers are people who have been successful in the recovery process, who help others experience, you know, similar situations. Now, when it comes to recovery, we're not just talking about substance abuse. We're talking about recovery as a whole, identifying what that looks like with your mental health. You know, it's very open to what that recovery looks like. It's through shared understanding, respect, and mutual empowerment. Peer support workers help people to become and stay engaged in the recovery process and reduce the likelihood of relapse. So what that looks like is you know, especially at HOPE Incorporated, when we do hire, one of the qualifications is that you do need to be a peer. The great thing about this organization and HOPE is that 96% of our staff that are hired actually identify as peers, all the way from the facility staff to the peer supports, the navigators, all the way up to even our CEO, which we love very much, Dan Healy, and I know you guys all know who he is. Peer support services can effectively extend the reach of treatment beyond the clinical setting into the everyday environment of those seeking a successful and sustained recovery process. So we're there to help walk you through the process, but then not only that, teach you the skills, those coping skills that you need to actually move forward in that recovery process. And that's the beauty of that peer support, especially that extensive peer support that our staff are able to offer. Because that's really what it takes to help somebody. It really takes that extensive peer support, somebody who's actively involved, actively engaged in one's recovery. And that's how we're able to help individuals be able to really move forward. So when it comes to forensic peer support workers who have lived experience in criminal justice system, you know, what I love about that forensic peer support is I had a lot of legal issues You know, I've stood before Judge Pollard in mental health court. I mean, in Veterans Court. I've been in mental health court with Judge Shetter, standing before her, and Judge Pollard being nervous. You know, I can remember what it was like. So with that, you know, we offer that holistic, person-centered, strength-based support to individuals with psychiatric and or co-occurring challenges involved in the criminal justice system, from initial contact with law enforcement through reentry into the community from incarceration. You know, and going on that, it's been such a blessing to be on the other end with working in mental health court with Judge Shetter, providing peer support to individuals, working in the RMVTC program with Judge Pollard, providing peer support. I've also worked with Pima County Justice Court, Mental Health Court, Superior Drug Court, and Superior Mental Health Court. So it's been so amazing to be on the other end, providing peer support, working with the judges, the public defenders, the lawyers, and most importantly, the members that have had to be there. It's been so amazing just to be able to do that peer support and help walk them through the process. So peer support services do not equal peer-run organizations, and this is what I was talking about. While most traditional behavioral health agencies, employees, you know, hire peer support staff, simply placing one or two peer workers into a hierarchical medical model system does not make them a peer and family run organization. What makes us different, sorry about that, is that we are led by a board of directors where the majority of people have experience with mental health challenges. So our board is based upon who make all the decisions, anything that we present to them, or at least our leadership presents to them, it's on a board of peers. And that's really what makes us different. We are staffed by peers who have experience with mental health challenges, and that's broad, whether it's, you know, substance abuse, recovery, dealing with criminal justice, in and out of being inside of the hospitals. Our board of staff have full independent control over budget and hiring decisions within the constraints of the law. The model equality and mutuality with member input into functioning of the program. So we make sure that our members who are on the governing board, so our members are we have a president, we have a vice president, we have a weekly meeting with the members where we sit down and actually have lunch with them, and we talk about what is working within the programming of our day program, what isn't, what is it, we hear the voice from the members of what they would like to implement into their recovery and into our day programming, what kind of groups they would like, what type of outings that they would like. You know, it's all put on the members to start creating their recovery and allowing them to take control of that. That's what's so amazing about what we do here at Hope as a peer and family run organization. So we provide supports motivated by empowering peers with skills and hope to make their own choices, not doing or for providing that advice. We're there as advocates, but we don't make that decision. We allow the members to make their decision. It is best that they do, because everybody's recovery is going to be different. So services provided at our peer-run organization is peer support, family support, life skill and development, reentry services for justice-involved individuals, the development of leisure time activities, social skills, counseling, behavioral health, promotion and education, employment services, transportation. We have an opioid outreach team that does an amazing job getting individuals connected into MAT services. We'll talk about that programming later. Community integration and involvement. We have multiple community programs that we'll talk about, and services for transitional age youth. So just so you know that we understand that individuals need connection and safety to healing. So I want to share a little bit, sorry that it's a little small there to read, but I want to talk to you about the outcomes and why individuals are referred to peer-run organizations. Nationwide, it's actually growing at such a vast rate. So research has shown that SAMHSA evidence-based toolkit found that peer-run organizations can be specifically effective in increasing overall sense of well-being, empowerment, personal confidence, and optimism. What I love about that is that as a peer, you get to meet the member where they're at. We don't have these expectations where, oh, you have to come to our site, you have to do this, you have to do that. We want to meet you where you are at. We want to meet you at your level and be right there with you, not to hold your hand, but help guide you, help navigate you, to help connect you with community resources that you're really going to need. The biggest thing we really want to do is build that rapport and that trust with you, because it's all about building that relationship with you, not to be your buddy, but at a professional level, really build that relationship with you. Mental health, America's review of the literature found a body of evidence indicating peer support services reduce days in inpatient treatment, reduce rehospitalization rates, and lower cost of services. This also can include lower cost of services for when individuals go in and out of jail. So that helps to reduce readmits in the hospitals and into the jail setting or prison setting. Researchers found that participants involved in consumer-operated services had better social functioning than those involved in traditional services. Outcomes that came from CHEERS and ASU programs, a study for the 17-18 annual reports for Center for Applied Behavioral Health. Nearly 85% of members report they are hopeful about the future and similarly. So with that peer support, they found that hope. That's what I love about what we do, is we help to provide that hope to individuals when they have lost all of it. All right. It was found that members who agreed or strongly agreed they achieved one or more recovery goals during the past 90 days were 159% more likely of a rate that their mental health as 7 or better when compared to those who disagreed or strongly disagreed they achieved at least one recovery goal. So you really see that effectiveness of that peer support, and by that 159% of individuals actually increasing their rate of recovery goals. Additionally, the more days per week members report participating in services, the probabilities of members rating their mental health at 7 or better increased. It was found that a number of times per week members met one-on-one with staff. Staff member at PRO had a significant impact on their probability of being hospitalized for psychiatric, mental, or emotional difficulties. So you could really see the rate of individuals that saw that they actually showed their increased ability to engage in services and get that peer support. It really helped their overall emotional and holistic psyche. So members who met with staff 1 to 3 times per week were 25% less to be more hospitalized and deal with emotional difficulties, which is a really, really amazing number. So to talk a little bit about hope, our mission is to deliver recovery-based community services using empathy from our own experience to ensure every individual achieves the most fulfilling life possible. So here we have our information to the right about the sites that we do have. Back in March, we did do an amazing merge with Wellness Connections in the southeast portion of Arizona. So it's not updated here, but we do have 2 sites here in Tucson. One amazing site in Yuma, an amazing site in Apache Junction. For Wellness Connections in the merge that we had, we now have a site in Nogales, a site in Douglas, 2 in Sierra Vista, and we just brought up a site in Safford. So we're growing our peer support dramatically all over Arizona. Hopefully one day, we'll be in Flagstaff and other places, just growing dramatically.
Richard, if I could just jump in for a moment.
Yes, please, sir.
One of the unique things about this integration that we did in March with Wellness Connections was that we were so similar in the way that we provide services. They've had a long-standing history working with the criminal justice system and therefore southeastern sites. So it was just made really good sense for us to come together. And we're in the process right now of working not only with the courts in Safford, but also with probation in Nogales. So, and I think really a takeaway could be taken, the difference between a peer-run organization and a clinical organization is that if you've heard throughout Richard's presentation, it doesn't sound very clinical. The unique thing about what we do is we're also an outpatient 77. So we can provide all of the covered services under access in the health plans that any other organization, behavioral health organization can provide. We also were at one time a health home. We were a health home for a little over 3 years. We were being successful. One of the reasons we changed back to a specialty provider is that we didn't have enough volume. We need thousands of members, and we only had 1,000 at the time. And I think the other unique thing about what we do as a peer-run organization is that really makes a difference when I'm sitting across from somebody who I know has walked in my shoes, and when I hear them make the statement, I can relate to what you're going through. I know that's true. And it's not that as a peer run, we stand on the soapbox and say, hi, I'm Dan Haley, CEO of Hope Incorporated. I have a co-occurring disorder, first diagnosed at 9, been clean and sober for 28 years. We don't have to do that. That's not our diagnosis. And that's really the difference between how we provide those services. I always like to say that we're a recovery program that offers clinical services. And that's really what I think we have become over the last 20 years that we've been in existence. Back to you, Richard.
Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. So going back to, I want to talk about our specialty programs. In addition to what Dan was talking about, our outpatient services, Hope works in the community to provide specialized services to specific populations. Hope has a long history of collaboration with law enforcement, managed care providers, community organizations, and family members to support individuals as they transition from crisis or the criminal justice system into the community. So our peer navigators are familiar with the criminal justice, crisis, and behavioral health systems and can assist individuals in finding the resources necessary for successful recovery. So this is our jail diversion program. We work closely with pretrial services in the jail and initial appearances, which I absolutely love, being able to go in there and provide peer services to individuals that haven't even seen the judge yet in initial appearances. That's the time to actually actively engage with them, provide that peer support, get to know them, to really see what it is they're struggling with in the community, being able to navigate with them. And so we have a great collaboration and partnership with Arizona Complete Health with working with initial appearances and pretrial. So the Diversion Services Program is a peer run team that supports incarcerated individuals to successfully transition to their community upon release. We believe that peers who have been involved in the criminal justice system can effectively establish trust and build rapport with individuals when they need it most. In collaboration with community stakeholders, the Diversion Services works to identify gaps and coordinate resources and services aimed at successful re-entry and reduced recidivism. So not only are we doing this with initial appearances, identifying individuals with Arizona Complete Health, but we're also doing the same thing with working with members with the JPR program, the other program that Amelia had talked about before for STEPS programming. We're also working with Arizona Complete Health to do a reach-in program where we're meeting with individuals that are detained, providing peer support, and once they do discharge, we are continuously following up with them, trying to get them actively engaged into the community, and most importantly, get them engaged in peer support services as we help guide and navigate them through the system. So we have a team-based peer support of assistance that includes doing some access applications, accessing community supports, food, shelter, utilities, getting them enrolled with a behavioral health provider by the member's choice, coordinating care as needed. One thing I love is that we're able to actually provide peer support in getting the individuals to court, providing peer support, advocacy, talking with the public defenders, talking with the judge, letting them know that what the member is actually doing with the peer support services at Hope. We do coordinate with probation, as Dan said, pretrial services, and most importantly, developing a plan for sustaining recovery. We are actively involved with the TIP program, which is the Target Investment Program. The overall goal is to reduce fragmentation between acute and behavioral health care for people involved in the criminal justice system, increase efficiencies in service delivery for members with behavioral health need by improving integration at the provider level, improve health outcomes of criminal justice involvement matters with physical health and behavioral health needs. We do collaborate very well with CHA, probation, and parole to meet the needs of members recently released from jail and prison. We're actually doing a TIP program in Yuma as well, and we are coordinating with them with CHA there.
Hey, Richard, this is Dan again. If I just could,
Yeah.
I just saw that we had Deanna Billinger on the phone, who was the CEO with Wellness Connections and now is working with us here as part of my executive management team. Deanna, do you want to take a few seconds to talk about some of the continuous work that you guys have been doing in your area?
Hi, sure, Dan. I don't feel prepared. I'm just taking it all in. This has been an excellent presentation. Thank you, Mary Lou, for arranging all these speakers, and I'm learning a lot. Yeah, we have served, Wellness Connections has served the southeastern Arizona region, the 4 counties, Cochise, Graham, Greenlee, Santa Cruz counties, predominantly rural region since 2002. And so many of the justice efforts that Dan and Richard have described, we have been advocating for and promoting and seeing, you know, headway that we've been able to make over the last few years to different degrees in across the different counties that we serve. So I am feeling like we have an opportunity through this integration with Hope to just bolster and strengthen and build on those efforts. And I appreciate the long history Hope has working to improve the lives of people that get tangled up in the intersection between justice and behavioral health. I'm not, so we've been involved in drug court and mental health court diversion in one of the counties. And then over this past year, for a few years, and over this past year, became involved in the mental health and drug court efforts in Santa Cruz County, as well as now Graham County. I think a lot of these efforts gained traction, particularly after the Justice Summit about 1.5 years ago. And we just see continued momentum.
Thank you, Deanna.
Okay.
Thank you, Deanna. Always a pleasure to hear from you. So some of our other community programs is Warm Line, which is really picked up during the pandemic. So it's a group of individuals that are peers who we are open 7 days a week and open to multiple counties. You can have individuals that don't have to identify themselves. They just need somebody to be able to talk to and provide that peer support too. So it's an amazing program that the Warm Line has to offer. So, you know, no matter what county you're in, please, you know, if you need further information about it, just go ahead and ask us. We can provide it to you for individuals who are in need of a Warm Line to call somebody. Another program we have is our peer aftercare team. We deal with individuals post-crisis for up to 45 days, if not longer, just helping to bridge a gap between services of when individuals went into crisis and are actually getting connected into the community. We did an amazing program with Sonora, which is called the Hospitalization Engagement Linkages Peer Program. And with that program in Sonora Hospital in Tucson, Arizona, we were able to provide that peer support by going in and actively engaging with members while they were still in. And the numbers showed that we were able to reduce readmits by 43%. So it's an amazing program. We have great collaboration with multiple hospitals here in Pima County. We have our opioid outreach team that identifies in the community with helping individuals with the opiate use disorder. They are getting individuals connected into MAT services, getting them food boxes, getting them into treatment, you name it. They're definitely getting out there into the community, outreaching individuals, passing out naloxone kits, making sure that everybody's using safely. And in closing, you know, research has shown that peer-run agencies are effective in working with members and offer unique abilities to connect and support individuals. You know, that's that relationship building. You know, we have a long history of peer support services and are dedicated to working with individuals working in the criminal justice field. Me personally, I love the criminal justice field and look forward to going to court, working with everybody, providing peer support, being in the jail. Not a lot of people like that, but you know, it takes a special kind of person to want to be able to provide peer support to individuals, especially in hospital settings and in the jail. So thank you very much. Here's our contact information for Hope Incorporated. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard and Dan and Deanna. I learned a lot, and it's wonderful to know that Hope Incorporated is down there, not just down there, but pretty much covering a huge region of our state now, and truly, I think setting the pace for what we need to be doing with peer-operated services, and truly bringing the community into its rightful place in our mental health and our criminal justice systems. So thank you again for Richard for the great presentation, sharing all this information with us, and I'm going to be resending out that PowerPoint as well as Amelia's PowerPoint that I know folks are anxious to get both. So I just want to again remind folks that we will be having the prison dialogue coming up on the 29th, and I want to thank the Pima County Attorney's Office again for being available for us today to share, and what an amazing project that's going on really in our whole southern region. So we need to get down there more. So hopefully that'll happen soon. I just quickly before we close, I know it's 12, so I appreciate your patience. Is Angela Fisher the interim director at the Maricopa County Jail? We had tried to connect with you earlier. Are you on the line now? I know
I am on the line. We're having phone troubles here.
Okay, Angela, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to just say hello, introduce yourself, and anything briefly that you wanted to share about your new interim position there at the jail.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Angela Fisher, and I was recently appointed as the interim mental health director for Maricopa County Correctional Health Services. I've been with CHS on and off since 2010, and I've worked in almost every jail in most positions that we have in clinical mental health. And I'm really, really pleased to be part of this group and to be working with you. We have been working collaboratively with MCSO to manage the COVID-19 in the county jails. As you can imagine, the pandemic has created a new layer of anxiety among incarcerated individuals. So we've been working to address those needs with the patients, and I know the community has questions about how we're managing the pandemic here as well. So I'm really happy to say that we have a comprehensive tracking program, and we've completed over 10,000 tests to date. And as of yesterday, we had a total of 26 active COVID cases in the Maricopa County jails. There is a public website that outlines our pandemic efforts, which gets updated daily. All you have to do is a Google search on Maricopa County COVID-19 in the jails, and you can find that information. I will forward that to Mary Lou in case anyone else is interested in having that link so that you can look into that yourselves if you'd like to. So thank you again for the opportunity, and I really, really look forward to working with all of you. Thank you for the wonderful information that you provide through this group.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher, and for being available and for joining us today. And I can send that out when I do my follow-up email later this afternoon. But,
thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, and I just want to send a brief shout out to NAMI, Arizona, and Jim Dunn. I don't know if Jim's still with us, but I know he'd been in. Jim, are you still here? He might have had to leave. I know he was here for most of this meeting. But we appreciate the OIFA Access Office and the outreach that's done through OIFA Access and NAMI, Arizona, and the Office of Individual and Family Affairs, and the support that they've given us and many of you as well, I know, in supporting the cause of reducing incarceration of people with mental illness in the justice system. So I'm gonna ask Andrew. Andrew, thank you for assisting me here today. And do you need to share anything else?
Nope, I'm good, Mary Lou.
All right. Thanks, Andrew, for everything. Couldn't do it without you. And a reminder again to please complete that survey today. I'll include it again later. And thanks to all of you who are